I noticed something was off the day she stopped lying properly. For years, she had this way of twisting things. Small things, harmless things. The girl's night ran late, she'd say with a sleepy grin and a waft of unfamiliar cologne on her sweater. Or, I forgot to charge my phone. When I texted her 10 times and watched it ring straight to voicemail, I used to accept that. I wanted to believe I was overthinking, that maybe I was the problem. But no. Something snapped in me the moment her lies started getting lazy. Last month, she told me she was flying to Denver for a work conference. She showed me the emails, her itinerary, even packed her suitcase while I stood there, watching. I almost let it slide. Almost. But there was a receipt left on the kitchen counter. 2 tickets. Cabo. First class. I didn't ask. I didn't accuse. I just folded the receipt into my wallet and kissed her goodbye the next morning like nothing was wrong. I started watching. Quietly. Patiently. Not just her, but everything. Her laptop, left open one morning when she went to shower. Her emails. Her Uber rides. The new set of lingerie tags I found buried in the back of her car. Still with the shop's scent clinging to them. She never wore them around me. Ever. 16 years, and suddenly I felt like the stranger in the house. My hands had built the deck outside, painted every wall in the kitchen she decorated, fixed the leaky pipes under the sink she never bothered to thank me for. And while I was under that damn sink 2 weeks ago, I heard her upstairs, laughing soft and low on the phone. It was the kind of laugh I hadn't heard in years. When I walked into the room, she ended the call without hesitation. No flinch. No guilt. Just a nod at me like I was the help, and then right back to scrolling her phone. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started planning. There was a dinner scheduled that Friday. Her suggestion. We need to talk, she'd said with a tone that carried no weight, no fear, just finality. I knew that tone. She thought she had control. Thought she was orchestrating something dramatic and cruel, like a queen stepping off her throne by choice. What she didn't know, what she could never have guessed, was that I'd already set the stage long before that dinner. The restaurant was her favorite. Classy, dim lighting, overpriced plates. I wore the shirt she once said made me look like a lawyer, clean, sharp, forgettable. She came dressed like she was heading to a date. Maybe she was. I didn't ask. Her eyes were steel the moment she sat down. No greetings. No small talk. She reached for the wine list. I'm not staying long, she said flatly. Let's make this quick. I didn't blink. Just nodded. The waiter came. She ordered for herself. I passed. I didn't need food. Not tonight. She leaned forward, folded her hands like she was giving a job interview. I'm done with you, she said, calm as a surgeon. I'm leaving tonight. No shaking voice. No hesitation. She was expecting a scene. Tears, begging, questions. She had rehearsed this, I could tell. Maybe even in front of a mirror. But I didn't give her the show. Instead, I leaned back, slow and silent, let out a breath that was almost a smile. Her expression shifted. Just a flicker. She didn't understand why I looked satisfied. Then her eyes moved past me. And that's when her face changed completely. The color drained. Her jaw tightened. A slow panic crept behind her mascara-covered eyes. Because someone had just walked in. Someone she never expected to see. Not here. Not now. Not like this. She looked at me again. But I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was watching the door. And the door had just opened. She froze. Not the fake kind where someone pretends to be caught off guard. No, this was real. Like time had slipped a noose around her neck and yanked. Her spine stiffened, her breath caught halfway to her lungs, and her hand clenched the stem of the wine glass so tightly I thought it might snap. The man who walked in didn't belong in a place like that. Tall, confident, calm, dressed like he didn't care about money because money had never been a problem. His eyes scanned the room, then locked onto her with the precision of a hunter spotting wounded prey. And the best part? He was smiling. Not a warm smile. Not friendly. The kind of smile that said, I know something you hoped I'd never find out. Her voice finally broke the silence, but it came out strangled. What is he doing here? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She already knew. Let me explain something. Weeks ago, I did what any man driven to quiet madness might do when the pieces stop adding up and the lies pile too high. I hired someone. Not a thug. Not some cliché private eye with a camera in a van. No, I hired someone precise. Someone who doesn't ask questions, just delivers results. A friend of a friend. Ex-intelligence, now in the business of quiet revelations. His name is Dean, and he was the one now walking slowly toward our table, each step measured. His presence as disruptive as a scream in a cathedral. She stood up, knocked the chair back in a clatter that earned a few curious stares. "You're insane," she hissed at me, cheeks coloring with embarrassment and fury. "You're out of your mind. What is this?" Dean stopped at our table, placed a sealed manila envelope between us, and said nothing. He looked at her once more, then nodded at me. "You want me to stay?" I shook my head. "You've done enough." He turned and walked away, and I saw her eyes follow him with dread. Her hands didn't move. She didn't sit back down. I slid the envelope toward her, tapped it once. "I know everything," I said, finally breaking my silence. "Every hotel, every flight, every text you deleted, every payment you thought wouldn't be traced. I even know who bought the necklace you're wearing right now." Hint, it wasn't me. She didn't touch the envelope, just stared at it like it might burn her fingers. "You think this is revenge?" she spat. "This is pathetic. You humiliated yourself." "No," I replied calm. "I let you humiliate yourself. All I did was stop pretending." Her eyes darted around the room. Eyes that had always loved attention, but now couldn't bear the weight of it. Then she made her move, grabbed the envelope and shoved it into her purse like it was trash. "You don't get to control me anymore," she snapped. "You've always been boring, predictable, weak." I smiled then, not a smug smile, something deeper, sadder, but still a little victorious. "You're right," I said softly. "I was predictable, until tonight." She didn't understand what I meant. Not yet, but she would, because I hadn't just exposed her. I had set the first domino, and the next ones? They were already falling. She left the restaurant in a blur of perfume and fury, her heels clacking the floor like thunder in a cathedral. Didn't look back. Didn't say goodbye. She thought she was storming out with dignity. She had no idea she'd just stepped into a trap I'd spent weeks building. I didn't follow her. I didn't rush to explain. I paid the bill, walked to my car, and let the night settle on me like a second skin. The satisfaction wasn't loud, it was quiet. Like the first deep breath after holding it underwater for too long. The next day, the unraveling began. She didn't come home that night. I knew she wouldn't. I'd already moved some things around behind the scenes, quietly separated our accounts, paused the joint credit cards, took her name off access to the house security system. She wouldn't notice right away. But when she did, the timing would be perfect. She texted me at 6:17 a.m. the next morning. Not "good morning." Not "let's talk." Just "what did you do?" I didn't reply. At 7:42, another message. "My card was declined. Fix this now." Still nothing. By 9 o'clock, the calls started. I ignored them, let them ring, watched the little digital numbers climb. 12 missed calls by noon. Then came the email, and that one I read, "You're acting insane. This isn't going to fix anything. Grow up and stop playing games. I'm coming home tonight and we're going to talk like adults." Talk like adults? She said that after cheating on me for over a year, lying straight to my face, spending money from our account to fund weekend trips with some idiot who still lived with his parents? No, she didn't want to talk. She wanted control. By 4 p.m., she was back at the house, or trying to be. I watched her from the window as she stood outside the front door, punching in the old security code again and again. It didn't work. She banged on the door, called my name. I let her knock until her pride got tired. Then I opened the door. She barged in like she still owned the place, brushing past me without a word. Her face was flushed, Her mouth pressed into a thin, angry line. You changed the locks? She hissed. No, I said. Just the code. That's illegal. So is using our money to fund motel rooms with your side project. But here we are. She turned to face me, and I saw something flicker behind her expression. Not guilt, not shame, rage. Rage that her little web was collapsing and she couldn't stop it. You're being a child, she said. You think humiliating me in a restaurant and locking me out is going to make you feel like a man again? I stepped closer, calm, cold. You humiliated yourself. All I did was let you show the world exactly who you are. Her hand twitched. She wanted to slap me. I saw it, but she didn't. Maybe because she knew deep down that hitting me wouldn't change the fact that I'd already hit her where it hurt most. Her ego. You think you've won? She whispered. You think any of this scares me? No, I said. I think it surprises you. Because for the first time, you're not the one pulling the strings. And then, right then, her phone buzzed. She looked down and her face drained. Completely. That colorless, wide-eyed panic I'd been waiting to see finally settled in. Who is that? I asked. She didn't answer. But I knew. And she knew I knew. Her boyfriend had just gotten his own message. The one I'd scheduled. Because he wasn't just some faceless fling anymore. I'd made sure he'd be forced to pick a side. And spoiler alert? He didn't pick hers. She stared at her phone like it had just turned into a live grenade. Didn't blink. Didn't move. The silence between us stretched into something sharp and painful. Then, finally, she whispered, "What did you do?" I crossed my arms and leaned against the kitchen counter. I let him know who you really are. And more importantly, who you've been lying to. Not just me. Not just him. Everyone. She turned to me, pale. You don't understand. I understand everything. I cut in. You told him I was abusive, that I cheated, that you were trapped in some loveless marriage and had no way out, that you were the victim. Her lips parted. She wanted to deny it, spin it, twist it into some warped version of pity. But I kept going. You sent him our bank statements, faked text threads, told him I was hiding money. You made yourself look like some broken doll he had to rescue. She took a step back. Just one. But it was enough. I pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolled for a moment, then held up the screen. He forwarded me everything. Her hand flew to her mouth before she could stop it. Panic. Raw, unfiltered panic. She hadn't expected that. She thought she had her affair compartmentalized, like a hidden room in a burning house. But now the flames were in every corner, and the exits were closing. And right on cue, the doorbell rang. She jumped. I didn't. I opened the door. And there he was, the man she wrecked our marriage for. Younger, slick, too confident for someone who had no idea what game he'd been dragged into. His name was Tyler, and he walked in like he still believed he was the protagonist in some romantic drama where the poor trapped wife finds her white knight. But the second he saw her face, everything changed. What the hell is going on? He asked, voice sharp. She tried to speak. Tyler. Save it, he snapped. You said he didn't know. You said you'd told him everything. You told me he was violent. He is, she blurted. He manipulated. He set me up. He's twisting this. I didn't say a word. I let her try to swim in her own mess. Tyler turned to me. You really hired someone to follow us? No, I said plainly. I hired someone to follow her. You were just a bonus. He looked like he wanted to hit me, but then something shifted. He turned back to her. How many other guys were there? Her eyes widened. What? Don't play dumb. That guy who messaged me last night? Said you did the same thing to him. Lied about your husband. Played the victim. Said you drained his savings. His savings. She froze. And just like that, the dam broke. You bastard, she screamed, not at Tyler, but at me. You planned this. You set me up. You manipulated him. No, Tyler cut in, stepping forward. You did that all by yourself. Her mouth opened again, but nothing came out. It was over. Not the marriage. That died long ago. This was deeper. This was the death of her illusion. The carefully constructed image she'd lived behind, where she was always the misunderstood, mistreated soul just looking for love. Now she was just a liar. Caught. Cornered. Alone. She turned to me, rage giving way to something I hadn't seen in years, fear. What do you want from me? I walked to the living room, picked up a small folder from the table, tossed it onto the counter between us. Just one thing, I said. Sign. Inside was everything. Divorce papers. Terms she wouldn't like. Proof that I had all the leverage. She could refuse, but I knew her better than she knew herself. She cared more about her image than money, than love, than even her own dignity. If she didn't sign, I'd go public. And she knew I would. She stared at the folder. Tyler didn't say a word. He was already walking toward the door. And this time she was the one being left behind. She signed. Didn't read the papers. Didn't argue. Just dragged the pen across the pages with a trembling hand and eyes that darted between me and Tyler like she still hoped one of us would catch her as she fell. No one did. Tyler walked out without another word, leaving behind nothing but his cologne in silence. She stayed standing in my kitchen, the kitchen I built, as if she was still trying to find the lever that would turn things back to the way they were. It didn't exist. She dropped the pen, wiped at her eyes like she was trying to erase the past hour from her face, and whispered, "What now?" It was almost pathetic. I looked at her and felt nothing. No fire, no ache, just cold clarity. "Now?" I said. "You pack. You're kicking me out?" Her voice cracked. "We have kids. This is still my house." I walked to the drawer, pulled out the envelope with the house title, and slid it across the counter. "It's not." She tore it open and stared, her mouth slowly parting as her eyes traced the names. "Mine. Only mine. I refinanced 2 years ago," I said. "Remember when you said you didn't want to be bothered with paperwork? You signed the release without reading it." She sank into a chair like her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. "You tricked me," she whispered. "No," I said calmly. "You ignored me. You treated me like a placeholder, like a silent paycheck with a wedding ring. You gave me silence, lies, and betrayal, and now you want sympathy because I gave you back exactly what you fed me for years." She looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. Every photograph on the wall, every pillow, every detail she once dictated now felt like a stranger's house. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know," I said. "But the lease on that apartment you and Tyler visited in January? The one you were planning to move into behind my back? I'm guessing it's still available." Her eyes snapped up. "You checked that. I paid for the background check under your name. Thought I'd be polite and save them the trouble." "You're a monster." I tilted my head. "No, a monster wouldn't have let you walk out of here with your reputation intact." And I meant that, because no one else knew. Not yet. Her friends. Her family. The kids. Everyone still believed the curated version of her she'd been polishing for years, the loyal mom, the hardworking wife, the one who sacrificed, endured, stayed strong. She didn't know I'd recorded her calls. Saved every receipt. Had screenshots of her conversations with other men, plural. Had audio of her mocking me. Laughing about how easy it was to lie to my face. Talking about how stupid I was for still trusting her. She thought she could rip me apart quietly and walk away glowing. She was wrong. I gave her the papers, gave her the house truth, and gave her the chance to leave with the little grace she had left. But she still didn't get it. She stood, eyes wide, voice desperate now. "You're not going to tell them, are you? The kids? My parents?" I stared at her. "No," I said slowly. "You are." Her lips parted. "You're going to sit down and you're going to explain to our children why you won't be living here anymore. Why things are changing. You're going to look them in the eyes and tell them the truth. All of it." She shook her head. "I can't, then I will." And she knew I meant it. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. Because for the first time she realized she wasn't in control of the story anymore. I was. And I hadn't even turned the page yet. She didn't speak for a full 30 seconds. Just stood there like the world had tilted sideways and she was waiting for someone, anyone, to fix it. But no one was coming. Not this time. "You want me to tell them?" she said finally, voice flat, hollow. "Yes," I said. "Tonight." She stared at me like I just handed her a loaded weapon and asked her to pull the trigger on herself. And in a way, I had. Because what was coming couldn't be softened, couldn't be edited into something palatable. I didn't want to humiliate her in front of the kids. I wanted honesty. Clean, brutal honesty. Not for revenge. Not for control. But because after all the lies, the double lives, the betrayal, I wanted them to see who their mother really was without filters. She sat stiffly at the edge of the couch. I called the kids downstairs. They came, groggy and confused, both still in pajamas. Our daughter sat beside her, our son leaned against the wall, arms crossed. No idea what was coming. She tried to start light. There's something we need to talk about. I didn't say a word. Just stood by the doorway watching. She fumbled through vague phrases, grown-up decisions, changes happening, your dad and I have been going through things, but every word that fell from her lips just made the room colder. Are you getting divorced? Our daughter asked, sharp and direct. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Yes, I answered for her. They both looked at me. Then at her. She still hadn't made eye contact with either of them. Why? Our son asked. And that's where the truth came to collect. She blinked fast, tried to reach for him, but he stepped back instinctively. The movement was small, but it hit her like a slap. Her voice finally cracked. Because I made some mistakes. Like what? Our daughter asked. Her hand trembled in her lap. It's complicated. No, it's not, I said, my tone still quiet, but firm. Tell them. She turned to me, hatred simmering behind her eyes. But even now, with the walls falling around her, she still didn't have the spine to admit it. So I did. She's been cheating, I said calmly. With more than one person. For a long time. She lied to all of us. Silence. The kind that suffocates a room. My daughter gasped. My son just stared at his mother like she wasn't real. No, she whispered. No, you don't understand, it's not that simple. Our son cut her off. Then explain it. She couldn't. She sat there, tears welling up, but the truth had already landed. It was over. The words she'd always used to bend the world around her didn't work anymore. Not here. Not with them. You lied to us, our daughter said. Her voice shook. You made us think Dad was the problem. I was trying to protect you, she started, desperate now. You were protecting yourself, I said, stepping forward. She stood abruptly. You don't get to poison them against me. I didn't have to, I said. The truth did it for me. She turned to the kids, reaching out like some tragic character begging for forgiveness that hadn't been earned. But they just stood there. Frozen. Processing. And then our daughter said something I'll never forget. I don't want to live with you. It landed like a hammer. I saw her knees almost give out. But I didn't step in. I wasn't there to save her from the wreckage she created. She didn't answer. She didn't cry. She just walked upstairs, shut the door, and left the silence behind her. I looked at the kids. I know this hurts, I said. But we're going to be okay. I promise. And I meant it. Because for the first time in a long, long while, the truth was finally louder than the lies. She didn't come out of that bedroom for the rest of the night. I made dinner. Sat with the kids. Watched something dumb and loud on TV just to break the tension that still hung in the air like smoke. We didn't talk much. We didn't have to. That silence between us wasn't cold, it was shared. Honest. But above us, behind the closed door, I knew she wasn't resting. She was planning. The next morning confirmed it. I woke up to find her in the kitchen, dressed immaculately, makeup flawless, phone glued to her ear. Her voice was low but clipped, calculated. She was calling people. Spinning stories. Reclaiming her image. Her armor. I caught just enough. He's trying to turn the kids against me. It's psychological abuse. I can't even access my own money. She saw me watching. Didn't flinch. Just turned away and raised her voice a little louder, just enough for me to hear. Of course I'm getting a lawyer. I poured my coffee. Sat down. Let her finish. She ended the call with a fake laugh and slipped the phone into her bag like a dagger. You think you've won, she said, not looking at me. I think I've stopped losing, I replied. She scoffed. You have no idea what you've started. I turned my head slowly, locked eyes with her. Are you threatening me in our kitchen? No, she said with a tight smile. I'm warning you. You've built this little fantasy where you're the hero. The poor betrayed husband. But when this goes public, when it gets messy, people will start asking questions. I leaned forward. Good. Let them. I have every receipt. Every recording. Every message. You think I haven't prepared for that? Her eyes narrowed. You want to fight in court? I asked. I'll win. You want to fight in front of our kids? I'll win there too. You want to play dirty? I'm already clean. You're the one who's drowning. She grabbed her keys like she wanted to storm out again. But this time I could see it. Her hands weren't steady. Her lips were tight. That confidence she wore like perfume had started to wear off. I followed her to the door. Not to chase her. To finish something. One more thing, I said. She stopped. Don't try to manipulate them again. They're not props in your drama. They're not blind. You had years to be honest with them. You wasted it. She spun around. And what? You're some saint now? You never made mistakes? You never pushed me away. That struck something. Not because it was true, but because it was familiar. The way she twisted reality to paint herself as the one who was driven to betrayal. Like her actions weren't choices, but reactions. I'd heard it all before. From her, from people like her. I didn't rise to it. I'm not perfect, I said. But I never betrayed this family. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. So I gave her the final push. And the only person who thinks I'm trying to win is you. I just want peace. You want a war. Good luck fighting it alone. She walked out, but I knew where she was going. And I knew what was waiting for her when she got there. Because her last lifeline, the circle of friends, co-workers, even her own family, wasn't what it used to be. Not after what they'd seen. What I'd shown them. The photos. The timelines. The proof. She thought she'd be walking into sympathy. But the welcome mat had been pulled out from under her. By the end of the week, the calls stopped going through. She'd gone out that morning, phone in hand, heels sharp, hair done like it was a press conference. I knew what she was doing, making her rounds, the damage control tour. She still believed she could spin it back into her favor. She always believed that, but I'd spoken first, quietly, efficiently, not to slander. To clarify, I sent a single message to a carefully chosen list. Her sister, her two closest friends, her manager, and her parents. It read, I'm not asking for sides, just the truth. If you want to see it, here it is. Attached were documents, timelines, screenshots, recordings, not dramatized, not embellished, just the raw, clinical sequence of betrayal. All of it. I didn't say she was evil. I didn't curse her name. I let the evidence speak. And it did. When she came back that evening, her entire energy was different. Gone was the confidence, the defiance. She moved slower, avoided my eyes, dropped her purse on the table like it weighed 50 pounds. Everything all right? I asked, calm. She didn't answer, just walked to the fridge, opened it, stared into it without moving. I waited. Then came the whisper. They're not talking to me. There it was. They think I'm some monster, she added, voice almost inaudible. No, I said. They just finally saw what you kept hidden. She spun around, her eyes red. You don't get to paint me like this to my own family. I didn't paint anything, I replied. You made the mess. I just turned on the light. Her hands clenched the counter. Her voice shook. I was the one holding this family together while you sat there pretending everything was fine. I was the one everyone came to. I was the one who kept the kids from hating you when you were too checked out to care. You kept them distracted, I said. With gifts, lies, fake smiles. You didn't protect them. You manipulated them into thinking you were the center of everything. They'll come back to me, she said, almost defiantly now. People forget. They always do. They won't, I said, because I didn't just show them what you did. I showed them who you've become. And the worst part for her? They believed it, because deep down they already knew. The little inconsistencies over the years. The moments she twisted the story, gaslit her way out of trouble. The gossip she spread behind people's backs to keep herself in the spotlight. It all added up. The truth didn't shock them. It confirmed what they were too polite to admit. She went quiet, eyes glassy. She didn't cry. That would have meant vulnerability. Instead, she muttered, I can fix this. I just need to explain, you're not the victim, I said. She turned away. Not because she disagreed, but because hearing it out loud made it real. Later that night, I heard her in the guest room. Pacing. Voice low, arguing on the phone. She was calling old friends. One by one. Apologizing. Defending. Pleading. Every now and then I'd hear the silence between her words. The part where the line had already gone dead. The next morning I woke to silence. Not peace. A silence with weight. One that hums with bad intentions before the world catches up. Her car was gone. No note. No text. No door creak. Just an empty driveway and a half-packed suitcase missing from the guest room. I didn't panic. I didn't chase. Because I knew where she was going. One last attempt to salvage her narrative. One last card in a hand that was already burned to ash. She went to my parents' house. She hadn't spoken to them in over a year. Claimed they were too critical, too cold. What she meant was, they saw through her. Always had. But now, when the walls closed in, she ran straight into the very house she once avoided like poison. I got the call from my mother an hour later. She's here, she said calmly. Wanted to talk. About everything. What did she say? I asked, though I already had a good guess. That you manipulated the kids. Froze her out. Set her up. I waited. And then she cried. My mother said. She cried like someone auditioning for mercy. My jaw clenched. She said you were cold. That she felt trapped. That she made a mistake. But it was only because she was emotionally abandoned. I took a breath. Did she tell you about the affairs? She told me about one, my mother replied. We both know that's a lie. Then came the pause. But Jake, she said softly, she didn't come here to apologize. She came here to win. To recruit. She wanted us to back her. To help her get the kids. There it was. That was her final move. Not rebuilding. Not taking accountability. She wanted to take them from me. It wasn't love. It wasn't motherhood. It was image. It was control. I drove over. Didn't rush. I wanted her to see me calm. Composed. While her fantasy burned down to the studs. When I arrived, she was sitting in the living room, knees tight together, sipping tea from my mother's favorite porcelain set like she was trying to cosplay as someone she hadn't been in years. She stood when I walked in. Jake, she started, I didn't know you were coming. You went behind my back to the people who raised me, I said. And you didn't think I'd find out? I just wanted them to hear my side. They did. My mother cut in from behind me. And now they've heard enough. She flinched. My father spoke from the hallway. Get out. She turned. Her mask cracked. You're not going to help me? No, he said. Because we've seen who you are. And frankly, we don't trust you with our grandchildren. There it was. The first door slamming shut. She looked at me, eyes wide, voice shrill. You can't let them say that. I didn't let them say anything, I said. You earned it. She exploded. Voice raised. Words tumbling out, accusations, self-pity, sobs so theatrical even she couldn't keep them straight. She tried to claw her way back with tears, but there was no weight in them. Not anymore. I let her go on. Let her burn it all down herself. She stormed out 10 minutes later. Got in her car. Drove off without another word. That was the last time she was ever in my parents' house. That night I changed the locks for the second time. Because I knew. This wasn't over. She wasn't done. But neither was I. A week passed. She didn't call. Didn't come back. I didn't expect her to. I heard through the grapevine she was couch hopping, staying with a friend from work who still believed her version, though even that sympathy was starting to crack. She tried reaching out to the kids. They answered politely at first. Then coldly. Then not at all. She tried sending gifts, expensive ones. A new phone for our daughter. Limited edition sneakers for our son. Neither kept them. I made sure they understood something crucial. Love isn't a bribe. And absence can't be sugar-coated with packaging. I thought maybe that would be the end. That she'd just fade into the background of her own mistakes. But no. She reached out one last time. Not by phone. Not in person. She mailed me a letter. Handwritten. Pages long. The envelope smelled like the perfume she used to wear when we still went on dates, back when she used to pretend we were happy. I read it in the garage. It wasn't an apology. It was a confession disguised as an excuse. Paragraphs of emotional deflection, twisted logic, circular reasoning. She blamed my emotional unavailability, my passive behavior, said she felt like a ghost in her own home. No mention of the lies, of the second phone I found, of the hotel check-ins under fake names, of the other men plural she swore never existed. Just the same script she'd recited in her own head so many times she probably believed it. But one sentence stood out. It was buried halfway through the second page. I truly thought you'd fall apart when I left. That's why I said it the way I did. I wanted to feel powerful. Powerful. That's what all of this had been about. Not love. Not boredom. Not unmet needs. Power. That dinner. The cold stare. The smirk. She expected me to break, to beg. She wanted to see me destroyed because it made her feel like she mattered. Instead, I just stood up. And she's been falling ever since. I burned the letter. Not out of spite. Because it was dead weight. Like her hold over me. 2 days later, I filed the final paperwork. Divorce finalized. Custody secured. House legally in my name. Kids with me. Clean break. When the lawyer handed me the confirmation, he asked if I wanted to notify her personally. I said no. Let the court handle it. Let the silence finish what the noise started. Weeks passed. Life began again. Our daughter smiled more. Our son started talking at dinner again. I started sleeping through the night. Not dreaming. Just resting. One evening, while locking up, I found an envelope taped to the door. No name. No note. Just a photo inside. It was one of the family portraits she insisted we take every year. The last one 2 years ago. Before everything collapsed. She had circled herself in red ink and written 3 words, I miss her. I stood there, under the porch light, staring at that photo until my fingers felt numb. And then I smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was finished. I walked inside. Closed the door. Dropped the photo in the trash. And for the first time in 16 years, I knew exactly who I was again. Free. What I learned. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Never forget who you are for someone who only loved your reflection when it made them look better. And when someone finally shows you who they are, believe it. The first time.